Pregame.com.
Welcome back to Pregame.tv. I am Steve Fezzik here with Vegas runner and Bryan Leonard. We're going to be breaking down the New Orleans Mardi Gras, taking, or maybe I should call them the Super Bowls.
We got to pick a better name than Pelicans.
That's right, at Utah, the Jazz. Another strange name, maybe it's snowboarders.
Go figure.
I am going to probably bump heads with Bryan on this, so I'm going to turn over to Bryan a little bit. Bryan, why don't you give a little breakdown initially for this game?
I kind of talked about this in a prior video, but what do we know about the NBA? What is obvious does not win, and that's the situation with the Utah Jazz. Just off a 45-point loss, their biggest home loss in history. You got a New Orleans team who played the night before against the LA Lakers, are going into altitude. Everybody and their brother is going to be on the Utah Jazz, and I think one of our brothers right here may just do the same thing. But I have handicapped the NBA long enough where we're going to get plenty of value on taking the dog, and I think we're going to go against each other in this one.
Very interesting. And so I'm going to be, we'll be on opposite sides. I love the spot for the meat and potatoes Jazz. They get pounded by Houston, 80 to 125, 45-point home loss, even with the altitude advantage. And you got New Orleans, you got Gordon playing better, he's healthier, still has questions with his knee. They got the biggest game of the year playing against the Lakers. You know, that's full effort in LA.
After they just beat Memphis.
After they just beat Memphis, and now they go up to Utah. Then they got to go to Denver after this. And remember, they got to get their friends and buddies tickets to the Super Bowl.
They got to get back for
They got to get back for the party. So this is like the big game against LA, and then they like get a little skiing in, go into altitude, and they're probably looking at the Jazz and say, oh, well, we're playing so well, we can win this game. And I think the Jazz are looking at this, hey, we're going to be fighting with the Lakers for that last playoff spot. This is a huge game for Utah, and Bryan's right. Sometimes you do the obvious handicap and you get in trouble with this, but this one, just the back-to-back for New Orleans, and I really think, like the last time, what happened the last time we bet on New Orleans? Game time decision, Eric Gordon out of nowhere, not going to play. I could see the same thing happening with this road trip. So if that happens, this line's just going to go through the roof. And I expect, because they're a totally different team without him. So that's my handicap. VR, who's right here?
I'll tell you this. I have looked at back New Orleans more than I've looked to fade them, simply because this is a team that could shoot the three ball. I mean, they're 8th in the NBA in three-point field goal percentage. And that's what I'm looking for in big dogs, that could get that back door cover for me, that back door is going to stay wide open because they could hit that three. And what happens is when teams even get out ahead of them, say you're up 15, 14, 2 3-pointers, and that leads down to 8. All of a sudden, that plus 9.5 came in. And that's why I've been looking to back New Orleans, because they're capable of hitting that 3-pointer. And when you look at Utah, they're 28th defensively against the 3-point shot. And that's the only fear I have in taking Utah. But I don't like the situation for New Orleans. And what I'm going to look to do is see what their schedule looks like around that Super Bowl. Because I know if I played for New Orleans right now, and I'm not going to the playoffs, I'm not going to be in the NBA playoffs, that's for sure. You're more or less playing for pride, for statistics, for a paycheck. I'm going to be looking to have a good time at the Super Bowl.
VR's like, you guys are out of your mind looking at a Wednesday or Friday. I'm looking at Sunday,
the weekend.
Monday.
I want to know, what are they doing around that Super Bowl weekend, because I'm going to look to fade them around there.
Makes a lot of sense.
I did want to point out, you made a great point about hitting the 3-pointers, and because you always talk about sprinkling a little bit.
Little something,
Well,
can't be shy.
Those are teams, when you're playing a team that is an underdog, that is a good 3-point shooting team, I think there's more value in playing them going outright.
Because all of a sudden they make a game of it, and the team that had the lead, it's tough to flip the switch. When you're up 13-14 and your mind's already like, we won this game, and even some of the starters already sat, and now all of a sudden that team from behind cuts the lead to 4, and you got to get your guys back in the game. Those are the kind of games they end up losing. I agree with you.
You know, right before I make this an official pick, I have to say I can't stand when a team's up 6 or 8 and there's 4 minutes to go, and the coach says, use the clock, and they run the ball. The
prevent. They haven't been able to score on you all game, but you know what? Let's kill clock by getting in the prevent.
The entire game, and then you blow it, and you see that again and again and again.
Never understood it. Never.
It makes, and and another thing I don't understand. Well, I've been going, my RJ's like, oh, you just rant on coaches. I'm like, they deserve it.
Make a hell of a lot of money. They could take a little beating.
There's 40 seconds left. How often do you see this? The game's tied. Team never goes 2 for 1. They are so careful with the ball, and then they chuck up some ugly shot with 18 seconds left. The other team gets the final possession. Anyways, let's go ahead and make
it official.
Let's make it official. It's official. I'm on an island here. My cohorts don't agree, but they're wrong. Utah Jazz -7.5. Yes, the price is high. However, I get a team coming in planning for the Super Bowl, even though they're not playing in it. And I'm going to go ahead and take Utah. And coming into the altitude without a day off on a back-to-back has really been historically been a terrible situation. Give me the Jazz, and I expect that betting against New Orleans, as VR says, all week long is going to get the money.
Did he say planning for the Super Bowl even though they're not playing in it? That's preparation. I love
the Super Bowl.
The angle. That's the angle, man. I remember the Detroit Pistons. I'm telling you, that Super Bowl that was up in Detroit, it was fade the Pistons right after the Super Bowl because they were all out partying, according to good sources up there.
The Texas Triangle, when all these teams go into Dallas and San Antonio, they go out partying.
All those strip clubs. You know how hard it is to avoid all those strip clubs in Texas?
Men's club in Houston.
It's difficult.
They get crushed. Well,
not that I would know, but
not at all. The next game we're going to talk. The next game we're going to talk about is going to be in Oakland, so I doubt that they're going to have too much of a problem with that distraction.
There it's pimps in Oakland.
But Bryan here at Pregame TV, Bryan Leonard's going to have a best bet here on the Mavs Warriors when we return to Pregame.tv.